Meditatio condis mei in conspectu tuo semper. Domine adjutor meus, et redemptor meus. Cena et gloriam Dei, et opera mano meus annunciat firmamentum. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Meditatio condis mei in conspectu tuo semper. Domine adjutor meus, et redemptor meus. Only one teacher, the Christ. St. Bonaventure lived at the same time as St. Thomas Aquinas. They both loved Jesus intimately. They understood his truth. They proclaimed it. They were doctors of the Church. They influenced their orders, the two great mendicant orders that were in full expansion in the 1200s. This saint was a mystic like St. Thomas Aquinas, therefore transmitting what was heart knowledge. They knew the one of whom they were speaking. This one can detect when someone proclaims the word. Is it the experience that he is transmitting? There is a difference. The Franciscan order was an evangelical reform before the time it was contained by the Church. We know of Francis' own encounter with the Pope. It's not that dissimilar to what happened in the 1500s with the little band that came with Ignatius of Loyola. They were at the Pope's service. Now, Francis had freedom because he cracked the mold. The world was his enclosure, and he was enclosed in the heart of Jesus. It gave a huge power of expansion and of influence. He was able to preach all over the world and not be restricted within the parameters of a parish. St. Dominic also was free to proclaim all over the place, and of course the order that he founded was the order of preachers. The word studied, loved in contemplation, and proclaimed. These two orders had one thing in common. It was contemplation shared. And that gave them both the power they had and still have. There is a difference between the Franciscan movement and that of the Dominicans, insofar as that the Dominican order did not relinquish entirely the monastic structure, notably the choir office. That made a difference. The Franciscans did not develop to the same extent the liturgical life. But they do have, in their own way, a strong monastic streak. We remember how St. Francis loved solitude. he spent one entire Lent on an island in the lake of Trasimene in Italy. And where he received great communications from heaven, it was always a place of solitude and apartness. La Verna, high up in glory, like Mount Tabor. And this is still there in the Franciscan experience, souls led to intimacy. Indeed, we owe to the family that came from St. Francis that great devotion to the humanity of Christ which reveals itself in the caring of the holy places linked with that humanity in the Holy Land. They have the custody of these places to this day. The wounds there present on the Franciscan emblem receive precisely before a cross. In those days, people would pray a lot before the cross. It was with the impetus given by the Council of Trent that the Blessed Sacrament became more and more centralized in the life and devotion of the people, even physically being placed in the middle of people's attention on the high altar. When St. Francis was around, as when St. Catherine was around, and when also St. Bernard, the founder of the Olivetans, Bernardo Tolomei, was around, they had one thing in common. It was before the cross that the experience came to them, that founding experience. With regard to Francis, he had in common with St. Catherine of Siena the fact that it was an Eastern cross, two-dimensional. It has that notion of Byzantine iconography about it. With regard to Bernardo Tolomei, it was a cross as we know it, a crucifix. It's venerated now to this day on Monte Oliveto. But these were saints who understood what carrying the cross meant and loved Jesus on the cross. It is from the contact with the Holy Land that we have now in our Catholic practice throughout the world the practice of something to counterbalance the 5 times of prayer in the Islamic bloc, which announce the greatness of Allah, but in so doing deny the incarnation. And so we have the Angelus proclaiming the incarnation, and in the 3rd clause, et verbum caro factum est, still there is, at least in Ireland, the instinct to kneel. That is linked with the old last gospel, when people would kneel at et verbum caro factum est at the end of Mass. But this was something which would precisely remind people of the truth of the incarnation, and therefore a reminder of the place where that happened. The tabernacle of the incarnation was a part of our geography, the Holy Land. Indeed, it would seem that the last straw came when the Islamic authorities wanted to destroy what was a threat to them, the miracle of the Holy Light, which was making so many converts at Easter. And so it was decided to destroy the Holy Sepulchre where it happened, and that's what it would seem ignited the decision to try and protect the holy places, if necessary by arms, the beginning therefore of the Crusades. This explains how the whole movement of awareness of the importance of certain places is part of our heritage and part also of our spirituality. In a sense, we need places, otherwise we're pure disembodied spirits. A place where the Lord is present is dear to the soul. And our Catholic worship has one great thing which makes it very different from that of our Protestant brethren, the fact that we have this Word made flesh in our midst, in specific points of our geography, claimed by heaven. And therefore, in a sense, Christmas is there until the end of time. The consecration means that there are many angels, as there were many angels in Bethlehem. And at the moment of the separation of the body and blood, there is a mystic death, as it were, and therefore Calvary is there too. We have, therefore, in our life on earth, that physicity of time and place, which is not just mind and intellect, and therefore the heart encounters, the body too encounters, and our praise must be well expressed. Slothfulness, ugliness, shoddiness have no place in our worship. The angels expect better.
In tempore suum. Ubi caritas edamus, ubi caritas Deus est, ubi caritas edamus, ubi caritas Deus est, ubi caritas edamus, ubi caritas Deus est.